man thinks a little when he's running for his life. The only thoughts that can run through his mind are what he feels and what he hears. What I feel is my heart pumping out of my chest, the dirt under my fast-moving feet, and the night's summery wind on my face. What I hear is a group of men shouting at me, a chorus of shooting irons blasting at my feet, and the only word my brain can muster, run. Without a second to think about it, I feel a hole appear in my leg as one of the men made his jack onto me. I could only muster a sliver of a yelp with my throat being drier than the desert I run across. I do my best to hold myself up. I can't be caught. I'll have a rope tied around my neck by the morn if I do. I try my damnedest, but I can't. My face becomes well acquainted with the dead grass and stones. As my heart calms, my brain fears. I clutch my leg and look around as I gaze upon the faces of evil around me. The one with the smoking barrel spins his iron and points it dead at me.
One hell of a shot, wouldn't you say, thief? Why don't you cough up all that gold you stole from my father? Don't consider pulling the trigger against your head for mercy.
I sputter and groan as I attempt to form my words. I didn't steal nothing. I ran because I knew you yahoos would kill me if I stopped.
Of course we gon' kill you. What else are we gonna do to a low-life thief?
I told you, I ain't no thief, My mouth is suddenly gagged by a barrel of the evil's iron. It's cold now, like how my body will be if I can't talk sense. However, that's difficult when you can't talk at all. The evil shows a gross sneer at me. I know what he wants to do, what he's going to do, what he craves, desires, is willing into the universe to do.
I'm feeling rather generous, thief. I'm gonna count to 10. By the time I reach 10, I better see that gold in the palm of your hand, got it? 1, 2, 9.
Hold it!
The air goes quiet. Another voice, unlike any of the evil stationed around me. The barrel leaves my mouth as the three men turn around and look to see who had the audacity to yell at them. I lean up to see a man wearing clothes that look 3 steps to rags sitting upon a horse with 2 hooves in the grave. No shooting iron, no weapon, just a long steel chain draped along his shoulder. The 3 evils stand confused, with the leader stepping forward to confront the stranger.
Now what did you just say to us, stranger?
Let that man go and walk away.
After a set of silence, the men begin to laugh. They laugh and laugh at the stranger.
You want us to let this little thief go? You got any other good jokes, clown? Gonna do a little funny dance for us?
The evils share their laughter, but the stranger makes no response. He stands just as sturdy as he once did, which causes the laughter to die down. The leader scowls and points the gun back at my skull.
Now what exactly makes you think we won't put lead into his brain and then proceed to do the same to you?
The silence that followed was almost deafening. It was broken by the stranger.
Because I ain't the one asking.
And for once, the leader was stumped. He looked back at his group, hoping for consultation to understand. But he just turned back to the stranger after being met with nothing.
Stranger, I don't know if you're in your proper mind. Because if you look around, you are the only one standing there. Which is why I ask, who is asking that we let this thief go?
As the question is asked, the stranger suddenly grips his head and takes a deep sigh. His eyes open to a glowing deep orange, eliciting discomfort from the band. And then, it seemed as if his face began to catch fire. And yet no flame seemed to burn or hurt him, only melt away. His teeth gritted as the flames began to grow. And to answer his question, the stranger only stated,
He is.
It's the Ghost Rider!
and men immediately rushed for their shooting irons and drew them from their holsters, cocking and firing at the stranger as fast as they could. Their desperate shots only struck the stranger a very few amount of times, but they struck nonetheless. As the irons began to click from their empty cylinders, the stranger was left standing as tall as he had been before. The evils began to frantically reach for more bullets, but it would have been smarter to run. The rider takes the chain across their shoulders and twirls it like a lasso before hurling the tail end of it towards a lackey. It wraps around his neck so effortlessly and quickly, you would think the chain itself was alive. The chain anchors itself into the ground below and tugs at the lackey's neck. His gasping and sputtering is frantic as his grip on the chain tightens. The rider has his own grip on the chain that is tightened harder than any man can grip, and with a tug, the lackey's sputtering stops, and his body falls as the chain is unraveled around the lifeless man's neck. Immediately, another lackey runs for the hills. For once, the evil is smart, but the rider has no care for runners. He takes no prisoners. That's what the legends say, at least. He raises a hand as a ring of hellfire sprouts from the depths of the underworld and onto the land of the living. There is no escape for any man. The lackey gazes in horror as a gate of flames impedes his escape, and then screams with the same horror as the gate of flames lunges at him, enveloping him in hellfire, and pulls him into them and snuffs his pointless screams. 3 were left. The rider, the evil, and me. I knew the evil was next on the rider's agenda of death, but I had grown increasingly fearful that I was next after that. The evil drew a knife and shakily approached the rider with false confidence, fueling his words.
All right, you devil. You've done it now. This hellfire means you got nowhere to run. You're stuck in here with me and my knife.
The evil lunges and plunges his knife into the stomach of the rider, and then proceeds to make the biggest mistake of his life. He looks into the rider's eyes. As their eyes met, the rider placed his hand around the evil's neck and pulled him closer, the knife left within the abdomen. And then, the rider spoke.
I am not stuck in here with you and your knife, mortal. You are stuck in here with me and my flames.
Without warning, the evil's skin began to crawl and sweat. His eyes turned black as soot as blood trickled down his cheeks as if the evil was weeping. But no cries came from him, only screams akin to wails of the damned he would soon be joining. The cold blackness of his eyes trickled across his face as his own veins and blood were rotten from the touch of the rider. The screams only got louder. The rider slowly lifted his arm, bringing the evil along with him, and proceeded to slam him into the ground. But no crack of bones was heard, only a cut-off scream and a puff of smoke. The evil had but vanished, and the ring of fire dissipated. Quiet had returned to the desert floor. I didn't know what to do next. I could not tell if I had been traumatized by what I saw or inspired by it. But it was obvious I was stunned. My gaze locked upon the rider, but when he turned his head to me, I looked away. I knew what was to come if I looked upon him. Dirt rustled as the rider stepped before me, the cracking flames of his skull illuminating the land. I couldn't help but stutter. I'm not a thief, rider. I swear on it,
Do not lie to me, mortal. I can see in your heart the sins you commit. I know you stole from that man's father.
That heart he looked into sank. I didn't know what to do. I could see my life flash before my eyes. Are you gonna kill me then, rider? I wish for it to be painless. He took more foreboding steps towards me and placed a hand on my shoulder. I expected this to be the end.
Mortal, the intention was pure, but the action was that of sin. I will not punish, but I will warn you. I am not always around to protect those who get themselves knee-deep in horse shit.
As he spoke, the fire seemed to die down, and the flesh once burnt off his face seemed to grow back and revealed his face once more. As I laid closer than I did before, I got to observe his rather handsome features. The amber glow of his eyes died down. The only light that came through was that of the moon that shines down on us. Lending the hand, the rider reached for me and I pulled myself off the ground. I couldn't help but feel lightly entranced by the man holding me up, practically by sheer strength alone, and became even more so when he whistled sharply and brought his stallion by his side. He climbed upon the saddle and stared down at me from his seat. I became distracted by his illuminated features once more.
Where are you from, kid?
Regaining my senses, I sputtered. Just outside Rawhide, sir. Why?
I'm feeling generous. Hop on.
With a surprising lack of hesitation, I gripped his arm and pulled myself up, joining him on the saddle. I gingerly wrapped my arms around him to make sure I didn't fall, prompting the rider to whip the reins and stop my ride back home. I don't know what it was, whether it was the fate of the night, or the rocking of the horse I rode, or the comforting warmth of the rider, but my eyes immediately began to droop, and sleep took me into its embrace. The sunrise of the south kissed my skin, fluttering my eyes awake as I leaned up from my slumber, and looked upon the old barn I called home. I took a deep sigh and made my way off the horse. I took a look back at the rider, who looked even more entrancing with the magical glow of the sun behind his head. I smiled and tipped my hat at him. "Thank you, Mr. Rider, sir." His 1,000-yard stare stayed on me for a bit, making me worried I'd said something wrong.
You got lines on your face from where you laid your head.
And with the final snide comment, he rode into the sunrise, seemingly disappearing into it. I tried my best to keep a gaze upon him, before I hear behind me.
Jonathan Clay, where the hell have you been?
I'm not excited for the conversation that follows.